It's good that you're biking here.
Do you want to turn down the heater?
You want it?
No,
So
I
not
don't
so
need-
hot.
I don't
You want to turn it down so it's not so hot?
Okay.
Oh, here,
Good to
very
hear.
hot because, I mean, the air feels cool, but.
You're good.
Just like
I'll show you.
Okay. So Mary, tell me about the housing crisis. That's definitely true.
And I'm gratefully housed by the Palo Alto Housing Corporation. Okay, in one of their buildings where the units range from about 250 square feet to maybe 450, where you could fit a single mom and a parent. The bathrooms, the architects did not put sinks in the bathrooms.
There's no sinks in the bathroom?
No.
So what do you use for a sink?
Well, the kitchen, there's a small kitchen area
Oh, I see.
in the main living area.
I see.
That's part of, it's just lovely, they renovated the unit, so they granted.
Oh wow, very nice.
Yes, so I'm very grateful to the Housing Corporation. And this building gets awards, architectural awards for have some excellence in
Sure.
affordable housing.
Sure.
However, it is what they call an SRO, single room occupancy. And as far as I know, there are 3 of them in Palo Alto, Parker Hotel, California Hotel, and the Alma Place. My main points today that I expressed in my letter were for citizens like me and the governors, to know where the vacancies are.
Are there vacancies?
Well, it is my belief that there are existing vacancies that can be used for residential units. I think that there are things called ghost houses that have been purchased by foreign investors, and they are
I
allowed
see. You're not talking about affordable housing vacancies. You're talking about general vacancies.
general.
Okay.
Yes, just general.
Okay.
So that when we look at new spaces, right, and when we form strategy for developing affordable housing, we know what is vacant in an existing structure, commercial or residential, and in land. So, because I think a lot of that vacancy can be used for affordable mixed use.
Sure.
So, and I don't know that enough research has been done to identify all of those vacancies.
Just out of curiosity, how would the city know what's vacant and not vacant?
I was going to start, okay, so my personal agenda, okay, I'm starting to write a business plan for an intentional community in an old schoolhouse.
What's intentional community?
Right now they want to build housing for teachers. Okay, so I have a vision of my intentional community where we value organic farming, we value our health, there may be a pool there. Okay, we are planning to generate revenue. We are teachers, so the revenue streams would be coming from our classes in our various expertise.
Are you a teacher?
I am.
Oh, what do you teach?
I teach writing and swimming.
Oh, okay. Which school?
I'm at Stanford,
Okay.
teaching the swimming, and from 89 to 99, I was teaching dissertation writing to engineers using English as a second language.
Well, thank you for your service.
Well, yeah, it was really rewarding. So, but I also could not make ends meet with just this, and I took jobs in corporate. And then in '98, I developed tendonitis in my forearms, and I could not be full time inside working, sitting. So, anyway, I actually took a break and went, and I have a property management expertise that I used when I was an undergraduate in college in Boston. So, but I married and came west with a postdoc, and we are no longer together. So we were here from 87 to, we were married from 87 to 95. And then from 95 on, I've been challenged Okay, so anyway, I had surrendered to his and stayed at the university, but did not do enough enterprising stuff for myself. So anyway, I went to Lake Tahoe to manage mountain homes in 2001, and when I came back here in 2006, I worked for 3 big apartment owners, and all 3 had been breaking the law. Okay, one had been incarcerated for laundering HUD money.
What?
Yes,
In Palo Alto?
in Palo Alto.
Okay.
Yes, he lives in Saratoga. And then the second one,
Wait, so what happened? Laundering HUD money. So how does what
he's
is
misusing. So he owns apartment complexes in multiple states,
Okay.
including California and Palo Alto.
Okay.
And he's an electrical engineer from a foreign country, but settled here with his family. Has a family in Saratoga. It has been in the newspapers quite a while ago.
I don't remember, but okay.
But he did a couple of years in prison for misusing public money to because when you're a developer, you can use public money, right? You can apply and receive public money for the low moderate income. Correct. I mean, so he was misusing those funds.
Like he used it for his own funds or something.
Something.
Interesting. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know about that.
Well, I didn't know it either, and I
So-
don't
so-
usually vet my employer to find out if they are a felon.
Yeah.
Employees are often asked, have you? But employees don't have an opportunity to ask if their employer.
So basically, this guy was getting funds from the city of Palo Alto. and-
The feds.
the federal. No, nothing from Palo Alto. Just from the federal
Just
funds.
the feds.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Feds.
Okay.
Housing and Urban Development.
Okay.
Yes. So that was, and then so I came back here thinking that was going to be my way of coming back here because I had been at the lake. I had decompressed from my life here, and I actually was working as a technical editor for an automotive test company. Had a 2-bedroom place for under $800 in Carson City, but I couldn't find really appropriate work for my skill set. So I tried to come back here, and the best way I knew how was to try to manage a property under the rule that if it has 16 or more units, you must have a resident manager. And so I figured I could work part-time and make that work. But I came and he interviewed, and he was wondering why I was wanting this job because I have higher level skills than you need for property management. So I should have listened to him, but I wanted to come back here and to conduct a proper job search from here. But once I didn't have housing, it was derailed a lot of things. So chicken and egg kind of thing, right? So then I went to work I was sharing a residence with a friend, and then Harold Hobach, is another prominent figure here, that hired me to manage his properties. And again, he was compromising the rules. So he wanted me to pay $500 a month rent on the apartment, and then only pay me $15 an hour for the job. And he converted a bathroom to be a residence for one of the janitorial workers, and wanted to consider that the resident manager position. So, and the third case, I had gotten a third position as a resident manager, and I was overpaying rent. So there is a limit to how much. So, and I was there 30 months, and there were many safety issues. So there was a lot of deferred maintenance. So instead of working 10 hours a week in that position, I was working more and not getting compensated. And I wasn't keeping a detailed log of my time. So when I filed a wage claim, I was able to win and discover that I was overpaying rent. So then I, again, without housing 3 times. And I did some caregiving while I filed the wage claim. And then I came up, I was on the waiting list for where I am for 7 years. So I've been there 4 years, and it was supposed to be transitional, 2 years. And I'm hard to live a productive professional life in less than 200 square feet of space and with other people who are mentally and physically compromised. Unless the no smoking law is not enforced. I've been in frequent communications with Project Sentinel and the city of Palo Alto about enforcing the no smoking ordinance. So, but after these trials and tribulations, I came up. So my name, when a vacancy comes up in these low income, they invite you for an interview. But I don't live much in a paper world, and they send this in the mail, and I only check my mail twice a week. So on November 6th, I missed an interview. I'm on the waiting list at other places in Palo Alto Housing Corporation. And I missed my interview because of the paper. They live in a paper world. So one of my wishes is that they.
No, I've heard this issue from someone else too. There was someone else. I forgot who it was. Someone came to our office hours. You guys remember who that was?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, somebody came in here also who also had that complaint about. Yeah. But anyways, go ahead.
I mean, we are expected to have all the exterior formalities of civilization, post, address, and we don't have a place to live. So it's just not realistic. I mean, I was working 2 part-time jobs, and I didn't get to my post office box to be available for that interview. And then I wrote to Anna Eshu just so she could speak on my behalf, so that I could get back my position on the waiting list. So the whole thing is really sad. It's sad.
Yeah, you're not the first person who's complained about the low-income housing wait list.
Yeah, we heard someone else that was had issues with the way the paperwork happened, but.
Yeah, I mean, we need to move that into the 21st century. If I was a fugitive, you would know where I live, and you would know where to put me in probably less than a week. The fact that we have upstanding citizens who work and are living in, really tough situations where they can't really live full lives. They're either at the beck and call of someone else, right? I mean, I took on a caregiving post for a friend's husband who was in hospice. And I was anticipating, when somebody's in hospice, it's usually 6 months. It turns out it was a 17-month time frame, which coincided with the time it took me to file the wage claim and win. Administrative legal proceeding. So and so just to get beyond, all of this, and I think mainly the thing that I want to influence the most is the way that city leaders, right, and its citizens, especially the real estate, the property owners, think about the way they are using real estate and give people an opportunity to have a stake in an ownership stake where they live. The renting model only gives someone. I was a landlord. I owned a Boston property. When I married and came here, I owned and I leased. And I won a big case, another big case in Boston as a renter when all those units were being converted to condominiums. Because you can't legally empty a building that can be inhabited. And so I had victories in Boston for myself and numerous other people.
So how do you propose giving people an ownership stake?
Well, it has to be like this property that's for sale. So I went online. So my vision was to find a hotel or a motel here, not on the coast. But after I missed that interview, and I've had this idea for a long time because I'm living in too small a space, is to go and talk to the hotel and motels because I have an aquatic expertise. So I wanted a place with a pool. And then I was going to negotiate with the hotel or motel. Okay, so there would be major stakeholders, public and private equity, and then individuals would have smaller stakes, and you would buy shares, and you would have an exit strategy. So you buy in, and then you exit when you want. And there would be exit strategy if and when, you die. Because I know there was a foursome that did this in New England, and one person died, and then they didn't know how to fill in the space. So there would be exit strategies for people, living or deceased.
So like you're talking about like fractional ownership.
Yes, just like airplanes, like they're doing with Surveyor.
Okay.
Yes, and so this property on the coast, $3.75 million. And Gary Dunn of the Caretaker Gazette put an ad in his Caretaker Gazette for free. He noticed my post on Facebook. And I have about 15 people waiting for me to put together the detailed business plan. So I did a one-page business plan, and it needs more definition, vision, mission, so that we qualify people to live there whose vision and mission coincide with what's there. And so that's what I envision. Like if somebody wants to share if somebody is living an alternative lifestyle, okay, however they want to, right? That they agree on that, they find the property, they determine the price, and then they negotiate with the owner, and then you apply for public and private equity, put some philanthropic investment in affordable housing.
I've heard of this company called Point. Have you heard of them?
No.
So what Point does is it's kind of around the idea of fractional ownership of property. So just like you have shares in a company, you have shares in a property.
Yes.
And so it's kind of I don't think they're necessarily focused on affordable housing, but it's something to allow people to get even a small ownership stake in the property.
Yes, that's what I.
Anyways, you should check them out. I mean, I'm not sure if it's applicable to what you're trying to do, but
That's okay. I'm mainly here to, on behalf of the Women's International League of Peace and Freedom and myself. They have a subcommittee for affordable housing, and I was mainly interested in what strategies, right, Palo Alto is using besides just finding vacant land and building, and also solving the wait lists, right? In other words, partnering with these nonprofit housing, Mid-Peninsula Housing, Eden Housing, Palo Alto Housing Corporation, and trying to partner with them to expedite how these really automate. We live in Silicon Valley. Even the recertification process, it's not enough for me as a resident to present my financial statements. They have to send another document to some staff person to confirm this, and then the staff person doesn't respond. So it isn't enough for me to present just the statements. And it takes, now it was supposed to, my fiscal time was supposed to be the end of December, and now we're bumping into January.
Right, we have 2 minutes.
So, mainly I want to, I know that I was referred to some information resource to identify the vacancy rates, but I guess I want to offer myself to the city to help with this affordable housing
well, I
issue.
appreciate that. I think it's good that you're trying to help solve this problem. I think the idea of fractional ownership is actually quite intriguing. I think figure out the vacancy rates. I think it's I don't know what it's good mechanism to do that, right? To understand what properties are vacant, what properties are not vacant.
What is your question?
Vacancies. How do you know where they are?
The thing is, I don't think there's any legal reporting requirements for vacancies.
I think you're probably right.
So the question is, should there be? And is that some constitutional violation?
Well, I guess the question is at what point do you have to report the property vacant? Right? What if you go on vacation for 6 months? Is you report it vacant, or what?
I know. Listen, it's property rights.
Yeah.
It's a property rights issue, no different than the taking of wetlands and the taking issue. I understand, but if I was a property owner, right, and property owners tell renters, my cousin's moving in, right, to get people out. It's a serious problem. So I'm here to just be on the same page with you and figure out like in San Mateo County, they have HIP. We don't have anything like that in Santa Clara. Housing, I don't know, it's a shared housing program, so that people who want to share their house, it's very formalized in San Mateo County, but not here. So if I'm older and I want to share my residence with someone, like right now I have a friend, he's 80 years old, and his wife passed away. I'm a good friend of the family, and they've invited me to share his space because he can't live alone anymore. And it's more than just, intentional communities. I'm talking about the full life cycle. It is a really horrific thought for me to age in place where I am. And now this elderly man, 80 years old, lost his wife. He's not remembering how he fell, but he's in rehab now. And these are long time these are people who have been here for decades. Sure. They were born here, and the family does not want him to live alone. So right now their expenses are around $2 to $3K a month, but if he starts to get into assisted care, that's $6K a month. So this isn't just about this is about cost, right? The reality of cost, and things are just phenomenally out of control for basics for housing. And so what I'm talking about is the full life cycle, so that we would have children living with adults. So when somebody like this, right, ages, he's not the people aren't living alone like this. But in that scenario, that's where this HIP program tries to fill in. And I don't know really what my friend is going to do. I don't really want to be that person. And I also don't want to see him go into assisted care.
I think this is one of the big problems, actually around the world, right? Where there's safety care to everyone, right? So it's a big question.
Yeah.
Not so easy to answer.
Well, China, what I heard about China is that if you put in time taking care of the elderly when you're young, you get that time later. But, we have cultural things here going on. People who just want that big house, that mega $1 million house with, a husband and a wife. And I don't know, we've just kind of moved away, I think, from social units that are more beneficial for the whole. So I don't know, I teach swimming, so it just helps me cope.
What age range do you teach? Is
I teach all, mostly beginners.
Okay.
Not particularly interested in the competitive.
I see. What do you teach?
I'm at Stanford, the midday group, and
Midday group, okay.
yeah, I need marketing help for what I do, but I feel so, I'm so compromised by the tight living space that I tend to just not want to focus on how to make it more livable.
So it's 200 square feet.
50.
50?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, your house is 50 square feet?
250.
Oh, 250.
I was like,
Okay.
that's a little small.
Okay.
No, 250 square feet. Might be 60, but it's tiny. And I just scanned over the Christmas holidays. I scanned about 2 or 3 cubic feet, and I have about 2 or 3 cubic feet more to scan.
What do you mean scan?
Scan them so that they don't take up space in my
Oh, you mean like paper?
paper.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. How do you scan it? You just got a scanner and start scanning?
I'm pretty much set up to. I had a writing contract with the Department of Radiology for 6 months, which was really awesome. He was one of my swim students, and he happened to be an executive director in one of the radiology groups.
Yeah.
So I was hired to write for 10 hours a week. He could authorize 10 hours a week, but both jobs don't, even 2 part-time jobs are not really helping me out.
Although you brought something that I also, because I have a lot of paper, like files and stuff. I'm trying to think of it takes up space, but I'm trying to think of how to
You have to scan it.
yeah, scan it, throw it away, right?
Yes, you kind of have to weed from the chaff, do I need this?
Yeah.
But at 60 something, and if you're teaching, right, and I had tax returns back to 1986, because they were Boston returns,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then when I came into this housing, I have to show proof of the sale of my property, right?
Yeah.
So I had 2001, so I keep these returns.
Yeah. You have to.
I have been keeping them beyond.
I wonder,
And
is there a good scanning service out there that could scan documents?
they'll do it at right up here, the coffee factory. They will take docs and put them on a CD.
Okay.
Or maybe now some web space,
Yeah.
cloud.
Yeah.
So you could take a stack and they could.
Is it pretty expensive though?
No, I don't know. It's a couple $100. Last time I did it, but then I didn't know. I have to now look at the CDs. Whereas if I do it directly to my computer and then I back up my system.
So if you have like a bigger box of documents,
Mm-hmm.
it costs about $100. You said?
That was a few years back.
Okay.
But you can have it done.
Mm.
I also, appreciate revisiting what happened when. When I was in Carson City, I was living on a 2,000-acre alfalfa farm.
Oh, okay.
Somebody had a little shack on the farm, and he wrote the lease on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So I just think it's interesting. And then in this situation, right, where I'm in I had to spend 2 hours going over all the clauses in the lease. And then wait 7 years, right? At least 2 to 7 years to get in. And then once you get in, you have recertifications every year. You have inspections every year.
Inspections for what?
Well, people tend to hoard things, and the conditions become unhealthful in such tiny spaces.
Oh, I see. So they inspect your unit every year. I see.
Yeah, and I was teaching a declutter class. So, they've been paying me in Trader Joe's gift cards.
Okay.
Because they don't want to bring me on as an employee.
But I've been thinking that I need to, I have a lot of paper documents too. I've been needing to scan them and checklist, but it's just work.
It's boring, I have now that the holidays are over, and I don't know, it's winter, my class enrollment is low. There are other internal outlets for aquatic classes. So my midday classes, I may not have any classes. So I'm having to figure out what else can I do with the university, and also I would like to do more writing contracts. Like I can be 4 hours a day, but I can't be sitting in the software development life cycles, which is too much. So, but I really work. I know that Paul Hebert at the Project Sentinel, April Fields, all these people, they have great compassion for people who don't have economic resources.
Sure.
And I think it's important that we keep our society diverse like this. And the teachers teachers and all the support staff can live here, not far away.
This meeting has a proposal about teacher housing.
We are going to have to wrap this up soon.
Yeah, that was by the grant they wants to build. So that's getting approved.
What do you think about that?
I'm into the intentional community. To build more units, like apartments to me mean living apart. And if you want that kind of autonomy, fine. Then there's plenty of it. But I would like more engineering, right? Social and economic engineering be done, or design. I don't know if you want to call it engineering. Sounds like you're forcing, but design. And then people who want to live in those communities enlist. Put me on that list. That's what I want to do out at the Monterey Schoolhouse. There's been a successful dance school there for 20 years. The woman's in her 70s, and she wants to sell. And I found it, and it just sounded so sweet. $3.75 million for 10,000 square feet of interior living space and 40,000 of land space with a parking lot.
It's a pretty good deal.
I'm in conversation with the realtor, but it's going to take. I have to start figuring out. Okay, so where are we going to get the money to pay to buy this, and what form of ownership will it be held?
Yeah, I think definitely looking at a company like a Point or something like that might be good, because it's all about the idea of how do you get fractional ownership, right?
Yeah.
And so you could slice and dice many different ways.
Yes,
They could be investors, they could be other things. So,
yes.
okay. Now my staff is like trying to. We have the next person, but
No, that's all right.
yeah. But thank you for
I really
coming out
appreciate
to chat with me about this. It gives me a very interesting perspective.
I know there are just some things there, like the previous owners that I served, and the gift cards. I mean, they don't want to put me on payroll, so I teach classes sometimes for the housing corporation, and because they can't guarantee me the quality of life, like guarantee me quiet enjoyment,
Yeah.
they have really reduced my rent. Because I came in much higher, but I haven't been able to manifest the income to pay the higher rent because I'm so compromised. And there's the think about vehicles. Okay, so here's the housing part. The vehicle part is the fleets. So these houses, especially SRO, they should have their own fleet of bicycles, should be part of the lease contract, and their own fleet of vehicles. And they only build. Hey, Stephanie. Sit here together. She's.
It's definitely.
Why did you come here, woman? I could have picked you up.
On bus. I know I could have driven on bus. I know. I realize it's Sunday.